there were things that we didn't do. For instance, Sam's famous split. We didn't get to do we didn't get to do that. We tried to sneak it in at some point, but
Yeah.
also, the rules of the series were slightly, they were what they were, which is very realistic to some extent. So a split in a corridor was difficult to project with the kind of storytelling we had. Um, but yeah, no, I think to me what was important is to play with the shadows, play with the characters, see how we can immerse ourselves.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
All right, Guillaume, how's it going?
It's great. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
yeah. Yeah, so it'll be coming out this week, tomorrow. Netflix, Splinter Cell, Deathwatch, and watching most of the episodes, I was like, all right, this is going to be very much inspired by chaos theory. And then for you, first off, I just want to ask your background on Splinter Cell, whether you played the games or was it something like, oh, I want to tackle this.
Yeah, I mean, Splinter Cell has been part of my childhood. I've been playing when I was, when it went out, I was somewhere around 11 or 12 years old. I essentially played the three first games, so I got to catch up a little more on the second half of the franchise. But yeah, no, I got to play a lot. Splinter Cell, especially with friends, because I don't think I had I don't know. I didn't have it at home, but I played a lot
Uh-huh.
with friends at their place, so it was a communal experience.
And it's like, hey, buddy, man, can I borrow your an Xbox,
Yeah, it was easier just to go to their place.
Yeah. And so with this being like a animated series, I feel like, you gotta watching it, it's like there's just differences, right? Compared to playing as Sam Fisher, where when you're playing it, it's very the pacing is slower because of the player that if they want to sneak around, because some other players can just go in gung ho, but it's gonna be hard. And for you tackling this, what was that like in terms of like was if there was like a instructions on how to do things? Like let's keep the let's focus on the story or the dialogue, the background.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any method specifically to tackle a project like this, especially stealth game. I mean, I've been drawn to stealth games when I was younger because I felt it was very cinematic. I loved the kind of story it was telling, the kind of characters we were portraying as well. And I did like to hide for 5 minutes to kind of understand the map and just understand, how movement, how people just move around and, how to approach it the best way. So it was definitely something that I kept in mind. But having to revisit the series much later in my life, I would say it's almost 20 years since I played the game when I started working on the series. I think it was left with a lot of memories essentially, and I think what stayed, sorry for my English, was really the immersion of the game. And I think the style, the aesthetic, the blend of very dark tones and bright spotlights was something that was really interesting to me, essentially because I have a career essentially as an art director, playing a lot with light and composition. So I felt it was something that I wanted to explore. But necessarily, when you build a series, you work from scripts and you work from a story written by Derek Kolstad, who did John Wick. So you do have to somewhat, adapt as well to a pacing of a series. It has differences, and we try to have as many similarities that we could.
Yeah. And I think some of the similarities that I did see is like, you got to have Sam Fisher in the iconic outfit with the night vision goggles. So it does have that. And like one of my favorite things to do in the game is sneaking around, going upside down, and just pointing pointing the weapon at someone like just to wait for them to cross. So I'm like, all right, there's that scene there. And so for you, what was it like? Like, okay, we have to add this, or was there like a list?
I don't think there was a list as such. There were definitely elements that we were considering to bring to the series. Like the goggles are an obvious one. Like you can't leave and you can't do Splinter Cell without the goggles. Second thing is Sam Fisher. You need Sam Fisher, and we do have him.
Yeah.
So I think it's very essential for me for the series to make sense in this universe. There were things that we didn't do. For instance, Sam's famous split. We didn't get to do we didn't get to do that. We tried to sneak it in at some point, but
Yeah.
also, the rules of the series were slightly, they were what they were, which is very realistic to some extent. So a split in a corridor was difficult to project with the kind of storytelling we had. Um, but yeah, no, I think to me what was important is to play with the shadows, play with the characters, see how we can immerse ourselves, and be close to him. The one thing that I would say is that in the game, you're constantly behind the character in the third person. So you're fairly distant from the character. The only time you will get to connect with him is when he's going to talk or when you're going to have the cinematics, right? And here we just had a full cinematic experience. So we had to think of different ways of approaching it. And to me, I think it was where we transfer to different codes, the codes of cinema, getting more close-ups, being a little closer to the character, and try to really make him human,
Yeah.
as human as possible.
And yeah, usually in the game too, because you're focused a lot on Sam Fisher, majority of the time. So, but the show, you get to see more of the other characters. You have the Shetland characters, and then you also, uh, yeah, the new one. There's a new character too that's kind of like helping
McKenna,
out
yeah.
Sam. Yeah, McKenna. Yeah. So, what was that like in terms of just like balancing that out?
I mean, the show was always about Sam Fisher. And when Derek started writing on the show, it was always essential that Sam is at the center of it all. He gets triggered by another character, another agent, McKenna, who is hurt in a mission and is asking for help. It's more of a coincidence than anything else that those two are meeting. It could have been someone else, but Sam decided to retire somewhere in Europe, in cold Poland. So it was more a coincidence. But yeah, Sam was at the center of it. And I think there was always a sense, you have the Force Echelon and you have the team behind Sam that is supporting him on the ground. So I think it was very much kind of following the script as well and just figuring out, for each scene, like what are you balancing? Necessarily, we have also the emotions at stake for McKenna, who's the trigger, and where a lot of things go bad for her. But then, of course, Sam is kind of the catalyst because the plots and the conspiracies that McKenna is part of, or she's part of, unraveling, is deeply connected to Sam's own history. So I think to me, what was interesting, it's been more than 10 years that we haven't seen Sam Fisher. He's older, he's a little different, he's maybe a little more grumpy as well. But I think that was also an interesting thing to look for this gap in time, not to really know what happened and to have to kind of immerse yourself with this version of Sam that left the missions behind, that left Force Echelon, and that had to kind of once again put the goggles on.
Yeah. And I do like that we get to see it's kind of like continuing the story because I was like, oh, I wonder if they're gonna make it like a reboot or maybe like a different storyline. And like usually in the game, when you're playing the game, it's like following Sam Fisher throughout the years. Just a lot of it's like a roller coaster ride. So what was that like for you? Just all right, we get to just continue on with his adventures.
I mean, it's great and it's humbling, right? Like there's been 6 games before, and you have so much lore and so much story behind Sam. And I think this is such a character that people love as well. So you don't want to hurt him too much, but at the same time, you got to work with a new storyline. And I think, I mean, I was happy that the storyline we had was connected to the games. I was happy that there was, a connection with it, that there was a connection with Douglas, which was a quite an iconic character and just a duo, so to say. So yeah, no, I think it was just interesting to revisit it. Of course, like when you're in the writing of a season of a series, there might be some minor adjustment, but really we try to keep it to the most, minimal as possible not to spoil the experience and certainly not to retell something differently than the game. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
important for us.
And since Splinter Cell has been a beloved franchise, for you going into this, so what were your feelings? Did you like, was there pressures? Was there like nervousness, or were you like, no, we can do this?
Okay, that's an honest moment. I don't think I was necessarily nervous at the beginning, but I tend to, I was not enthusiastic initially in the idea that I would have, when we work in animation with a lot of, game companies that we've done with my studio, the game companies own the franchise. They know the characters, they know the laws, they know everything, and necessarily they will guide you through the process. And I was personally more anxious to be in a process where you would have to check every single box and make sure that it fits in the narrative. So there was a bit of this apprehension, I would say, of not knowing whether it's going to be an experience that, can leave. And I think very fast. So my idea was that I presented the first deck, just a few mood boards to Netflix and Ubisoft, just to get a sense whether we align or not on, what they want of the series. Before I was a director, that was when they came to my studio. And very fast we were aligned, and that was very reassuring for me as well. So, when you start doing design, it didn't feel like I was going against them. It was very much kind of a collaboration, and it just got to prove itself, over and over during all the visual development phase where you define the characters and the environment and the look and the aesthetic of it all. That was very reassuring and at the same time very empowering as well to have them, supporting the vision. And I think the other thing is that Ubisoft was not, I worked with a film and television division at Ubisoft, but they were connected so much with the designers of the game. They had also great, consultancy within Ubisoft, understanding as well, the law of the game and understanding the kind of conflict we face today in our modern world, because it's happening kind of in 2026. So it was important that it felt true to, what made the game great at the time.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, like you've been working with Ubisoft before, and then you also worked with Netflix before. So was there like a difference between, let's say, working on this and working on a project, let's say, Love, Death, Robot?
Yeah, I mean, I think all projects are different. Love, Death, Robot was more, it was a short film. So in terms of narrative, you have, it's a lot more kind of controlled. Uh, this is just enormous, right? You have almost 3 hours of content that we needed to do, like the actual production of the series took roughly 2 years, 3 years, but the whole process was about 5.5 years. But to make a series, you need to be a lot of people. So I think that was the biggest learning curve as well, is how do you work with so many people and structure it in a way that you keep a vision very clear for everyone. And also just to keep when you're working on the episodes, you work on 4 or 5 episodes at the same time. So when you're building the narrative for one, you're doing the design for another. So I think it has been just a learning how to switch mindset constantly from an episode to another to make sure that it's coherent and that it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, with this, like, being 8 episodes, and let's say with Love, Death, like, short films, would you say this is like the most ambitious project for you yet?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the scale of it for sure, I think you don't get to realize, how important a franchise like that is for the fans when you're making it. You're conscious of it, but you're in your bubble and you're developing it and you're working with your team. So now that it's coming out, there's a lot of yeah, just excitement as well, just to see what people will think of it. But it's been such a great opportunity to me. It's essentially the fact that you get to tell almost like a feature film in 2 hours and 45 minutes was very exciting. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
greatest experience so far.
And then also in the show, there's been like the needle drop, especially with characters listening to music on their headphones. What was that like? And I don't know if you get to choose the music or you had like a music supervisor.
Yeah, for the commercial music, when we had some music that we wanted to play, I worked a lot with my film editor, who I we assembled the storyboard together. So my editor was proposing temp music, and he was also proposing temp music specifically for the one that we needed to get from the, you know, from the world. So existing music. We got to choose music in terms of the tone, and sometime you would get it, sometime licensing is not as that easy. So we would work with Ubisoft in Montreal, the team doing the music department basically. And they would help us scout for music that would be in the same vibe or tone. And sometimes there were some music that were quite essential for the series. So we really, we chased them to get them on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was involved in that part as well.
Yeah. So Guillaume, I want to ask you about just being in the animation field and just, just seeing it flourish and or is this, continuing on because, there's like all types of animation, 3D animation, 2D, and then there are still some that do stop motion. I guess for you, like what does that mean for you like just to see just animation just still being carried on?
I mean, it's been a very interesting decade, and the project was half of that decade. But there's been the venue of all the streamers as well, and animation is everywhere. Adult animation is become bigger and bigger in the Western world as well, outside of the traditional Japanese anime, which is a big part of it. And I think it's just an excitement to see that animation is moving forward. Those platforms and producers and people who believe in animation and what it can do and deliver has definitely proven that you can do a lot of things. What I think is exciting is that we get to do a project like Splinter Cell, which is a techno thriller. It's very genre piece. And often this is a kind of project you would not necessarily give to an animation studio. This is typically the kind of project you would do for live action because of guns, because it's very
Yeah.
contemporary and that's probably easier to do that way. But I think that animation has a lot to offer in terms of the kind of storytelling we have to do. It's it's much less exhausting to travel from one location to another. You just do everything on your computer. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's exciting.
And I want to ask just because it's such a beloved franchise and there are all types of fans, right? Like especially the hardcore ones and then anything where there's adaptations, whether it's like a video game or a book or anything else, there's going to be like some worries. So I was wondering for you if there's anything you want to say to just ease that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm well placed to kind of know what we've done, but at the end, I just hope that people will get to see for themselves. What I can say is that we really wanted to stay true to the game and to the atmosphere and the immersion. To me, what was important from the get-go was to get this sense of immersion, and necessarily it requires to adapt a few things to have this sort of cinematic language. But honestly, I think that. I mean, I don't know. It's so hard, when you get to adapt for the first time a franchise like that. Necessarily, there is very reasonable anticipation from the fans to know like what is he going to do with it. All I would say is that give it a chance because I think there's a lot to offer on this series. And if you like thrillers, if you like stealth, if you like action, if you like espionage, spy movies, there's a lot to offer in the series.
Yeah. And I think with that, I just want to say, Guillaume, thank you for taking the time for doing the interview. And it's been a
Thank you.
pleasure chatting with you. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.